Right.
Okay. Ready? The time is now 5 o'clock, and we'll call the meeting to order. For all of you that are in the audience, if you can please make sure your watches and phones are silenced. Approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the agenda.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Cooper, will you please lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Krista, do we have public comments tonight? Thank you. Call to the public. This is the time for the public to comment. Time limits may be allocated on public comment at the discretion of the board president for the board to efficiently complete its business. The board reserves the right to prohibit any comments made in a discourteous or threatening manner. Complaints about specific individuals, students, or personnel are discouraged. Personnel issues should be directed to the appropriate staff member or administrator per district policy. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. When I call your name, please come up to the podium. There will be a 3-minute time limit, and I will give you, that's very consistent with most of our meetings, I will give you a 30-second warning as you reach that 3-minute mark. I do also want to remind you that tonight is just an information discussion item. It's just the board having discussions. There will be no action items or decisions made tonight. First up is Stephanie, I'm probably going to mess up your last name, Krop? Chop. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the time. My name is Stephanie Chop. I'm a resident of Fountain Hills for 22 years. What I hope to hear tonight are a list of problems and honest discussion of possible solutions. We don't need to hear everyone's memories and sob stories of the district and how little Johnny is having his middle school memories ruined because we didn't have sofas in the classroom. We need to leave our emotions at the door and talk finances and strategy for success. We need strong academics and sports, and the rest can be free to go somewhere else. Last I noticed, Basis doesn't have a football field, and the students seem to be competing academically at the top of the scale. Fountain Hills loves our children and our schools, but they also want honesty about where the money is going. If you're able to give data-driven solutions without all the emotional blackmail, I'm guessing you'll make better decisions and earn the trust of the people of Fountain Hills. Without trust, we all suffer, including the children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is John Davies.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, guests. Over the last few months, you've heard me speak about our student athletes and the damage that was done as a result of not having the finances due to the bond not being voted down. This was at the forefront because our field was condemned and we were going to lose many sports and students as a result. The field, however, is just one item in a very long list that the bond had impacted. During the last bond election, it was stated that there was misspending, missing monies, and even attacked some of the current and former board members. To date, I have heard of no misspending and no missing monies. However, to Dr. J's credit, even without the needed funding, somehow has been successful in spite of his challenges. He has achieved an A+ rating for our schools. Enrollment is up. He also helped raise hundreds of thousands of dollars from wonderful donors for our student athletes. Secured a great head football coach with an amazing pedigree, and from everything I've garnered, and I've talked to a lot of people, has 99.9% support in this community. To further state Dr. J's credit, he and the boosters raised most of the needed monies to replace the football field. But a small group of people and a politician are taking a victory lap, saying, see, we don't need the bond. But let's be honest, raising private money for the school's needs is not sustainable, nor is it realistic. It is clear to me, the public, and I'm fairly sure that even the new board members, that the bond is a 100% necessity, and that the information presented by one group was just plain and simple all lies. In closing, you have the chance to right the ship. Either sell the land, which is what the new board members wanted to do and publicly campaigned for during the last bond election. The majority of the public knows the truth now and sees the consequences of not having money put into our schools. So put the bond back on the ballot. Give Dr. J the tools and the money he needs to make our schools great again, to steal a line. Stop making this a political argument and just do what is in the best interest of our kids, our teachers, and our community. We really shouldn't even be having this conversation anymore.
Thank you. Next up is Gary Zahner.
Thank you. Nice seeing you once again. Well, as I said, it's all about the kids, and the property values are a reflection of the school district. Now, this school, the school buildings, because I've been around since 2007, it looks more like my body. It's getting run down. So in 2006, I was 20 years younger, and if you don't take care of your body, then you might just die. But I take care of my body pretty good, but I'm still getting run down. Now, all I can tell you is a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, I couldn't get on campus because the water main broke, or water pipes broke. And how long did you have to close down school? 7 days, 10 days? Well, that's got to be something when your plumbing goes. Now, if you get a heart attack, you know your plumbing's gone. But when the plumbing out in your school district is hurting, and you can't take a shower in your physical education building, if you've ever been in there, if you walk the campus, the roofs are leaking. I went in to take a shower, I couldn't take a shower. They said if you turn the shower on, all 11 showers go on. If all 11 showers go on, it floods the locker room. I'm going, what's that about? Then I talked to some of the football players, how'd you get out so fast? Oh, we don't shower after a football game. That's disgusting. So I don't know what else to say, but if you talk to the maintenance guys, I talk to them all the time. Hey, what's wrong with this over here? What's this over here? He says, we don't have the money. I can't buy this. Got to go through this. I got to go through that. Well, if you keep waiting for it, this whole place is going to fall apart, just like my body.
Thank you. Next up is John Weimer.
Good evening. I'm also a resident of Fountain Hills, and I'm concerned about what's going to become of the closed-down school, Four Peaks. Heard several stories going around town, and I'd just like to find out which is the real story. I've heard that the land and the building are going to be sold. I've also heard it's going to be leased. Could be leased to a developer. The board will retain ownership of the land and the building. The developer will then destroy the building and, well, that's twice now, I'm sorry, destroy the building and be able to build apartment complexes on that land. The ground is big enough to support over 200 apartment units. And then, of course, then the board can participate in the rent that's collected off of the units. What is the true story? What is really going to happen to that land and that building?
Is that the end of your comment?
That's the end of the comment. I'm
Okay.
hoping
The true
someone would
story
answer.
is, just as I said at the beginning of the meeting, this is an information discussion. There's been no decision made for any of the items on the agenda.
Okay, so the jury is still out. So-
Right, the five of us are here to discuss tonight to see what the options are regarding these items on the agenda.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
there's no truth to the rumors that it's been sold, been leased, been nothing. Because the board, this is the first time the board has met regarding this item.
Thank you, that's help. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming to educate yourself. Next up is Liz Gildersleeve.
Good evening, Liz Gildersleeve, Fountain Hills resident. And I noticed from the agenda that you will be discussing another bond and override tonight. I think that we all learned from the defeat of the last bond and override that some things really didn't work in this endeavor and deserve some open discussion. Shaming parents and concerned residents who question the expenditures and decisions of the school board really didn't work. In fact, I would say it backfired. Utilizing the services of serial bond override PAC creator Paul Luhan and primary consultants also did not work, where the only contributors to the PAC were contractors who benefit from the bond's passage, at least immediately. The last election proved that their carbon copy PAC machine approach that they used throughout the valley does not work well in Fountain Hills. A true grassroots approach is needed. Finally, promoting and utilizing any aspect of CRT or SEL in the curriculum or course materials at any grade level is seen as a big negative to many voters, myself included. And it also influenced my voting decisions. I don't need, for example, someone coaching my preschool grandchild to understand her sexual and racial identities. I need someone to teach her how to count, tell time, tie her shoes, read her a book. We want the kids in our beautiful community to be educated, not indoctrinated. And I believe that is why so many parents enroll their children in other schools or homeschool. If excellence in education was the laser focus here, and I believe we're on that track, parents would be lining up to enroll their kids in the Fountain Hills School District. Parents from Scottsdale would be busing their kids here instead of the other way around. And spoiler alert, obviously I was a no on the bond and override in the last election, but I have voted for it in the past. I am here tonight willing to listen to new ideas and a fresh approach. Contrary to what the bond proponents believe, I want the best educational experience for every child. I want every hard-earned taxpayer dollar to be used wisely in this pursuit and every dollar accounted for. I'm not willing to settle for mediocrity, and neither should any parent or grandparent. I would hope that is something we all have in common moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And last up is Joe Greco.
Thank you. I have a vested interest in our education system here. I have children currently moving through the system. I believe in the system. I look for your support for everything under the sun regarding education. There's nothing to lose with investment in education. Education fuels change. Change creates innovation, and innovation develops a nation. We all encounter change through life. Think about the evolution of the automobile. Today, the most valuable auto company finds value in software and innovation. What will they build next? Innovation is created from change and fueled by knowledge. Knowledge is developed through education. Education fuels change. Fuel is energy, and energy is capital. Capital is necessary to fuel education and change needed to drive a nation. Think about education like an engine. An engine has many moving parts and must fire on all cylinders to achieve power, reliability, efficiency, and safety. Energy is needed to fuel the engine and enable all cylinders to fire. Education is the same way. All the different pieces of education, the academics, the arts, music, CTE, skilled labor, work-based learning, special ed, counseling, the human resources, the maintenance, as was just mentioned, requires funding, requires fuel, requires capital, requires the bond to be passed. I appreciate everything you're doing. We need to support education through supporting the bond. I ask you now to show me the power of education. Support Dr. J, support the bond, and let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the public comments, so we're going to move forward with our information discussion items. A lot of these items go together, so I'm going to have Dr. J lead the conversation. Sure. And then once he has presented his information, the board will be able to discuss and ask questions regarding the information he has presented. Dr. J, I'll turn it over to you.
Madam President, members of boards and guests, first I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I think this is what it's all about. We talk, we come to solutions, we work together, and find a way to support our kids. And that's what I'm about, is our kids. The first one on the agenda is the parcels of land. And, you know, we put everything on the agenda to have a discussion about all. I am going to start by saying that I do not recommend selling the parcels of land from the administration side of things. Obviously, you guys will have a conversation tonight, but I just feel that the parcels of land are the future of the district. They're opportunities for us to grow if we need to grow, and I don't really want to be the one who sold them, and down the road we may need them. So I don't think the value's there to get us where we need to be. I think it's a long process. I understand it brings a lot of disruption. But at this time, I don't recommend the parcels of land, but I'll give that to you for conversation.
Would anyone like to start a conversation or have questions regarding the sale of parcel of land? Does anyone have a different opinion than Dr. J?
I don't have a different opinion, but I want to say thank you because I completely agree. I was never a fan of selling the land because I believe it is an asset to the district. Land is always valuable and it has a lot of potential, so I appreciate your honest assessment.
Dana, did you have a comment?
Well, I'll kind of wait till we're done with all the discussion before we get into specifics.
Okay, sounds good. I'll just comment that I agree with Dr. J as well. I've never been an advocate since I've been on this board. This is my 11th year. I've never been an advocate of selling those parcels of land. The issue that I see is that property values go up and down depending on when you sell. Depends on how much money you're going to get out of it, and finding a developer who can come in and actually develop those parcels is probably not as easy as we think. And unfortunately, the need is now for funding to fix our roofs and AC units and plumbing and whatnot. And so to put this on in November, get approval, hope that it sells sometime next year, wait for closing, we could be a year or more out. So I don't disagree on the land. So we'll move, if no one has a specific comment on this, we'll move on to the Four Peaks building.
Madam President, members of the board and guests, the Four Peaks building has been looked at in our facility use committee. It's been something I've studied since I've been here. Full transparency, when I arrived, my hope was to save all our buildings. But after spending, this whole year on the job, touring the facility several times, looking at all the information in the Gordian report regarding Four Peaks, the fact that there's a lot of issues with sewer lines and plumbing, renovations that would need to go into place. I believe the Gordian report said it'd be about $5 million to just get it back up to the level it would need to be for students to be there. I do recommend that we have a conversation about the potential of selling, leasing, or exchanging Four Peaks. I know that we had a presentation from Jeremy Callis a couple board meetings ago about our options, and those options were, again, that we could sell it, we could lease it, or you could exchange it with a developer for a building or something in return for that. I just feel that after looking at all the information, the costs that go into maintaining that building, the fact that there's renters in there, which is, in my opinion, not what it's zoned for. We are a school district, which we have a lot of work to do, and being landlords is another job that is very challenging for us to be able to do. We don't have any additional staff to assist with that. I have been very upfront with our renters and explained to them that no decision's been made, but we have not renewed any leases beyond December of '23 at this time, in preparation that something may happen. But when you look at the area, you look at the facility and how much land's there, it's not a big area of land, but it is something that the district has to deal with frequently, and the amount of rent that we make versus the amount of cost, it is not a win for us. And after just months of analyzing it, I just believe it's time that we consider selling, leasing, or exchanging the Four Peaks building.
Thank you. And for those that are in the audience, I just want to clarify, the Four Peaks land is, we only own the buildings and the parking lot. We do not own any of the land behind the buildings. So everything that's Four Peaks Park is owned by the town. So ours is basically from our driveway in the back of the building to the curb. That's the only parcel that we own. So when he says it's a small area of land, I don't want people to think, oh, there's all that grass area. That's not ours, just the buildings. And Boys and Girls Club lease the building from us. We have a long-term lease with them on that building. And Dr. J, with the renters in there, we're still responsible for all the maintenance on that. Is that correct?
That is correct. And maintenance, cleaning, other issues that pop up. We've had air conditioning issues, plumbing issues. So, we tried EBIT. I was principal at the time when we did that. We were very hopeful that that would work out. It just did not. We did not get enough students. There was a lot of hope that students from Scottsdale and Cape Creek would bus into that EBIT location, but Scottsdale does their own, they do their own CT programs within their own school, so they weren't coming. And Fountain Hills School District, with our small enrollment, could not keep that building up and running on its own, and that's why EBIT didn't work out. There was also some issues with programming. The signature program there was cybersecurity. We couldn't get a teacher for 2 years to teach it. When we did, the first year, we went through 4 teachers, I think, in the first semester. It was just something that was really hard to do. So the fact that it's been utilized as a biz hub, was a partnership, my understanding, with the town. Town no longer, to my understanding, is involved in the biz hub. We are, again, landlords and trying to manage that, and I just think it's a really tough job for us to do that with all the other items that we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Does the rent even come close to the expenses that we incur each month?
I believe it comes in a little over half. I want to say the last number I saw was probably around 60% of the cost.
The rent covers 60% of the cost?
Yeah, and
I
there's
think we were
been
at like a 24,000 negative or something.
Yeah, there's been talk of, let's get more renters in there and things of that nature, but it's not designed to be a strip mall, right? I mean, it's a school building. It was repurposed. There's some question about zoning. We've addressed that. But I think for the neighbors that live there, that's not, it's intentional. That wasn't the original purpose of the building. And so to bring in more renters and more people in there would require more maintenance costs for us. And the idea was to generate business, right? So the rent is very low. That was the whole purpose, is my understanding. I didn't do this all before my time, but the rent was supposed to be low as a way for businesses to grow, which I'm a fan of, and I love that idea. But for the school district to do that, it's been challenging.
And we did have one renter that we received complaints about from the town. Is that correct?
That was before my time, but
That was
yes,
before you-
I've heard
okay.
that.
Yeah, we did. We received it, and we got a violation notice from the town that we were out of code by having renters in there. But the renters that are in there now, most of them have an education purpose or are a nonprofit. So it's not quite like renting it to Target or somebody like that.
Yeah, and the renters have been great. They've been really, really good to work with. Some are partners with us in what we do. But again, it's just the overall cost. So if we're talking about being responsible with our money, being, fiscally responsible, which is a big part of what I've come with and what I will continue to do, I just look at the building as it is a drain on our district funds and it's very challenging for us to continue to manage it.
Any comments, questions, discussion?
So, to clarify, are we taking, I had heard the number, about a $50,000 loss a year on Four Peaks. Are you
I'd say
thinking
roughly
it's
that.
greater than that?
I do. I think the last number I saw was about 70,000.
On page 35,
It could have changed
It
with some of the
says
new
balance.
renters that we brought in.
yeah, it says balance negative 24,387. Currently negative, but we still have several months of rental revenue.
Probably
That's
for
what the
this
account
year,
says.
yeah. I'd have to have our finance rerun it, but early in the year when I looked into it, the numbers I was presented with was about 160,000 to run it and about 90,000 in rent.
And not all of the renters are paying a competitive rate, right? They're kind of, we see
I have only
discount.
rented, I believe, to one or two. I think one maybe that I worked out was the kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've been hesitant to do it. I can't speak to what was decided in the past. Some are nonprofits, and I think that helps our community, obviously, when we support nonprofits, but at the same time, it's not helping the school district.
And if I understand correctly, a few of the tenants want more space or are interested in securing more space?
There's one that I'm aware of that wants more space.
So would it be possible to negotiate for a more competitive rate with this vendor? Or with this
I
tenant?
don't believe so, because there was talk earlier in the year that we were raising rent when we never had that conversation. And that made it on social media and actually into the paper, and it wasn't true, and we did not ever talk to that renter about anything or any renters about rent. So I just don't believe with what we're charging to go to a level that would balance it. I think people would leave
Okay.
and take different opportunities in town.
Libby, did you have something?
I have something. I don't see the need to continue paying for Four Peaks at the point that we are losing money every month and every year. The school is in such bad shape, if anybody goes to see it, that we're talking about $5 million possibly just to bring it up to code. But it wouldn't even look like any of our other buildings look. It's really very dated, in really bad shape. So we're talking about a lot more than $5 million to invest in it. At this point, we know we don't need any other buildings. There's possibility if we do expand in the future, we have the parcels of land, we have more land by the middle school right now where we can expand, which would make it a lot easier. It just seems to me like we're wasting our time, and it is a building that is possible to be leased or rented or sold. So my thought, it's a good one to look at what we could possibly do in the future with this. And plus, it would give us money much sooner, as Libby said, instead of having to wait years till we get something.
I actually said
Or
that,
you
not
did,
Jill.
sorry, Jill.
We don't need any misquotes there.
No, we don't. So if we were to, say, lease this parcel of land or sell it, we would get income that much sooner, which is what we need in the district right now.
And I'll add, the Gordon report has Four Peaks at 3.08 million in high urgency needs, like immediate.
Right.
Has another 1.35 million in moderate urgency needs. Now, this was, 2 years ago, so those might be even more urgent now than they were then. And another 500,000 in low urgency. So, yes, and I do agree with the fact that, and I'm going to speak more to enrollment later, but as I've shared with lots of people, I do believe that there's a lot of facets to enrollment. It's not just one thing. So when we talk about academic achievement, we have that. We've had it. Some of the best in the state, and did not move the needle. So there's a lot of things that go into it, and I think buildings, the way they flow, the experience you have there, I do think that matters a lot for parents and for students. And so Four Peaks is the oldest building. It's I think it was 1974, right around there. So,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's
It
just.
was the first school building here.
Yeah, so it's just past its life expected. I mean, it's, in fact, I spoke to the school facility board, and I do want to clear up with all of our community members, any work we do to buildings that we can submit to school facility board, we do. Okay, so we just did the roof not long ago at McDowell Mountain. We got reimbursed for that, okay? So we can do those things, and we will do that for every purchase. So we may have to have the money up front to get something done, but we may get that refunded back to us. We don't know. It's not a guarantee. You're competing against, 200-plus school districts in the state for that money. But there's a good chance that you can get some of that money back. And when you look at Four Peaks, my understanding is if enrollment were to go just crazy high, I don't know if the school facility board would come in and remodel that building or tear it down and start over. Because again, when you start getting into sewage and you start getting into foundations and things of that nature, they might decide as a school facility board that they would do that. So if we ever get to an enrollment where we can no longer sustain the amount of students we have to educate, that's where school facility board comes in, and that's where they build new schools. And that's what happened in 2002 when we outgrew the middle school and the high school campus. The new middle school was built from that fund. And so whenever you start to have enrollment that goes up, the state has to step in and they have to do that. So we've looked at planning for the future if enrollment continues to go up. Enrollment is up almost 100 kids this year. So if that continues over the next couple of years and we outgrow the new McDowell Mountain, there is land around there. There's ability to build up. There's the ability to build off of one of the buildings. So there are opportunities, and with parcels of land for the future. The problem with the parcels of land too is that they're all really close to each other, like in comparison to the town. And so if we ever had two high schools in the town, they might be a couple blocks away from each other, which would be interesting. But we have to think about the future, because right now our community is, we know the demographics, we know where we're at today, but things can change very quickly in 20, 30 years. And so we've thought about a lot of these things as we move forward, and I don't believe that Four Peaks has enough in it left to save at this point.
So can I just ask a couple of clarifying questions? And I know we haven't gotten the Gordian report yet, so if you want me to wait until we get there, we can. But on page 66 of the Gordian report, or maybe it's 66 of our board packet, I believe, it has the annual need by location. And if I'm reading it right, the Four Peaks Elementary, I know you recapped the low and high priority needs, Dr. J, just a second ago. But if you look at the needs in 2022, yes, part of it is Four Peaks. 2023, a very small part is Four Peaks, and the same until we reach 2025, and then it's about $1 million, less than $1 million again of Four Peaks. And, ultimately, I think we've got to sit here and decide, are we wanting to cut our losses? Are we really in a business and wanting to try to turn around and turn a profit? I mean, the benefit, my understanding of keeping Four Peaks, is the rental income can be used anywhere in our budget. The upside of getting rid of Four Peaks is we're immediately out of the hole by 70,000. We immediately get a gain of income of 70 or 50, whatever
Right.
that number is, correct?
I just don't know if I wasn't here for the Gordon report. I don't know if they factored in, there's no students there, and that's why maybe the high urgency is not where it is. And Fountain Hills High School has students, so that might be part of it. I can tell you from what I've seen that Four Peaks needs more work than any other site to put children in there. It needs a lot of work. And it has sewage issues, which is another issue. And John Flynn is here if you have any questions about the sewage.
Well, is any of that work stuff that could be covered by School Facilities Board?
It's
While it's
not while there's
operating the
not
way
while
it
there's no
is.
students in
Okay,
there.
okay.
No, I can't imagine that the school facility board would fix a building and say no to other buildings that have students in them. No, I don't believe so.
And I'll just make a comment. My students went to, well, one student went to Four Peaks back in, a long time ago, about 13 years ago. And at that time, you know, there's a lot of reasons kids leave to go to Scottsdale or other schools. Obviously, the number one issue is academics. And so, you know, our academics have been stellar for many years now. But even when my kid was in Four Peaks, it was a 3-4-5 school at that point, and I had a lot of friends that left. And I know it sounds really silly, and for all of us that are watching our tax dollars, this is by no means trying to sway you one way or another. I'm just giving you some information. There's no natural light in that building. There's low ceilings, and there were plumbing issues 13 years ago when my kids were in there, and those plumbing issues still exist to this day and are probably magnified by 1,000,000. So people left at that time because they didn't want their kids in a very affluent area going to a school of such low quality. So we're going to contend with that again unless the school is brought up to date and, you know, natural lights added, you know, the ceilings are taken care of. The plumbing issues are a no-brainer. You can't put kids in there when they can't even use the restrooms. While my student was there, the cafeteria restrooms couldn't ever be used. The kids had to go to other areas of the school to use the restrooms. And the cafeteria is right off of the playground. So, you know, then you're managing kids walking through halls. So there were issues 13 years ago that still haven't been taken care of. You know, and again, are we going to put money into a building that had issues all those years ago and now is magnified when we have no students there? So again, I'm not swaying one way or another. That's just a personal experience.
Joe,
Yes.
you know, other than the bus barn and the warehouse, that's our smallest parcel that we own. And from a developer standpoint, the cost to tear it down is worth more. It's going to cost more than anything you'd make over a decade or two. And we're not going to use it as a school. I don't see any future use as a school facility. And you doing the job that we're doing now with trying to lease them out, and I was involved at the time with the town having problems with us competing against other real estate in town. And so I get that. I'm in favor of that. But I don't want us to be overly optimistic of how much that's going to provide to us. I think if we break even on that in the sale aspect of it, and if somebody wanted to buy it for $1, we'd probably be better off taking up on that. But there's not enough room. It's zoned R110. You could get maybe 7 homes on there. And I don't think there's any chance that the town will rezone it. So I really, I think the sooner we get rid of it, the better off we're going to be financially. We're never going to need it for a school. Boys and Girls Club is there, that's fine. The park is there, they use that as well. But all we own and have the ability to lease, sell, or trade is a small parcel. And I just don't think it has any long-term or even short-term value to us.
Thank you. Libby?
A couple more questions just to clarify some stuff that was in the board packet. So one of the walkthroughs that was done on last December in 21, it said that some things were presenting an extreme hazard. Do you know if those have been corrected or if we can ensure that they get corrected? It's on page 49 of the board packet. And then also I want to say thank you for providing the Climatech discrepancy report. Do we have that report for all of our sites or just for Four Peaks?
John, are you aware of that? Do you want to address
It's in
that?
red.
Up here, John.
Yes.
Yes.
To
in
go
red.
along with that one, wanted to know, because it says exterior electrical service entry points are unlocked, unsecure, and are accessible to public, presenting an extreme hazard. Is that due to disrepair, or is this done because the businesses are there?
I think it's the business are in there and they have to let people in.
Okay.
Some of the buildings, as you saw on our tour, are gated off and locked. So I would imagine that those are the areas that are off limits. I have not heard of anything from any of our renters about any concerns other than cleanliness of the building and air conditioning issues in the summer. We had a lot of air conditioning issues in the summer. So I asked John to come. He did not prepare, so please know that he's here on his time to help assist with any questions on the building, since I don't know a lot about it.
Go ahead, John.
What was the question?
So John, we received a report, and I believe it was kind of based on the Gordian assessment, and it had a walkthrough on 12/22 of 21, and Mike Cicerone, Paul Brennan, and Steve Bartlett were present, and there is a red item on this small report talking about the exterior electric service entry points are unlocked and unsecure and are accessible to public, presenting an extreme hazard. And just as a concern, a little bit away from the
Right,
topics that have been addressed.
I'm aware of that, and it was taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
And can I just say one thing about Four Peaks and the Gordian report? Yes. If I had to estimate, based on when the report was done and what the cost of services are now, it's probably a 45, if not 50% add to whatever we had for Gordian at that time.
And then I think my other question was, do we have a Climatech discrepancy report for all of our sites or just for Four Peaks? I noticed they did that just this.
No, we have a discrepancy report. Well, every year Climatech provides a service for us where they come in and inspect all of our buildings. So we do get a discrepancy report on all of the buildings. As of right now, all the buildings have been taken care of. So as part of our annual contract with Climatech, they give us a report, we review it, make sure that it's legitimate, what they're asking for. We obviously don't look at every single thing they do. We pick out a few items and go check that out. Yes, and all that work has been completed.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to see the other discrepancy reports? Is that what you're asking?
I think it would benefit us as a board to see those if it's not problematic, because then we can really assess the differences in each site. But if the issues have already been resolved, I don't know.
By the way, we get those reports every year. So every year we get a discrepancy, called a discrepancy report. We get reports on what needs to be maintained per statute. We get them from Climatech, we get them from Fountain Hills Fire Department. We also get them from Greenway Technologies, who's now installed 2 of our new fire alarm systems. We get it from the sewer.
Sanitary district.
Yeah, the sanitary district. We also get it from the water company. So all of those reports come in, and then we vet them, and then we turn around and either have an annual contract to have that work done, because it needs to be done on an annual basis at a maximum, but at a minimum it's every couple of years. So we do keep those reports. And if somebody would, if you want those reports, I can provide them in a timely fashion when we receive them.
Yes, please.
Yes, we would like to see those, please. I think it would help make some
Is
decisions.
somebody going to send me an
Krista, will you please make sure that John gives us those? Thank you.
So the majority of the expenses to bring it up to code are with plumbing and electrical? Is that what
Well,
we're
there's-
saying? That's
I'll let
that's
John-
why it's,
So we're talking about Four Peaks now, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so Four Peaks is, the largest single cost is plumbing across the campus. There is a sewer system that connects the old building from the new building, and when the new building was put in, it was sloped incorrectly. So the sewage does not run out of the newer part of the building down into the sewer system, which is at the lower end of the building, which is El Sobrante. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is that all of the bathrooms have problems. We either have water problems, where we don't have enough water, we have too much water, there are water problems. So plumbing is probably the second biggest expense across the board. And again, I'm going off the top of my head, but I want to say that that's nearly $1 million all by itself. As far as the electrical goes, the electric there is significantly outdated. I don't believe we could get an occupancy permit again for students, given the condition of the control and all the gear and all the control that goes with the gear. To everybody's point, the building has terrible light, natural lighting. So lighting, in order to improve the overall learning environment, all of the lighting would have to be changed out in that building, or we'd have to add more windows. The old fluorescent lighting that's in there is now 20 years past its useful life, and fluorescent lighting, for the most part, has been done for the last 3 or 4 years. So.
And in addition, none of the safety upgrades that we did in 2017, 18, 19, or anything like that was done over there because it was closed at the time. So on the previous bond in 2013, I want to say around $600,000 was spent on safety upgrades at the 3 campuses and the district office. So that's, again, there's a lot of things there we'd have to reconsider. Fencing, front office redesign, just a lot. And again, when you get it all done and you go there, there's nothing about that building that's going to excite anybody.
The positive thing about the 3 buildings that we're operating right now, including McDowell Mountain, is that if you look at the Gordian report, the vast majority of the electrical and plumbing, their suggestion is like 2035 and beyond, where we have to start to consider replacing that, even for McDowell Mountain. But when you look at the Gordian report for 4 Peaks, everything is in the next 10 years, I believe.
That's if we want to operate it as a school.
If we want to operate it as a school, yes.
And just to clarify one last time, that exterior electrical service entry points are unlocked, unsecure was a business decision, not a faulty system? The one that says presents an extreme hazard, it's open because businesses are in there right now?
The one that Libby read to you.
No, that was 100% had nothing to do with that. Somebody had gained access to that and left it unlocked. And we were unaware of it until we were told. As soon as we were told, we secured it. But we changed out some of the locks there.
Okay.
And Dr. Jay's right. The first 2 years, which I'm going to call 2017 and 2018, I think we were $70,000 and $78,000 in the red on those buildings. But we had to undertake major renovation, or not major renovations. We had to update and replace a lot of air conditioning there.
It does make me a little sad because when we walked through, it was dirty, but to me, it still had a lot of potential. You didn't see, it was outdated too, and I recognize that, but the cafeteria with the little stage, I think that, there are things in there that are endearing, and I think that there's still potential. When I walk around a building like that, to me, I still see the potential. I do think it's also sad that we would burn those bridges with those tenants, especially knowing that they are interested in more, and that gap is a lot closer than I thought it was. When I first heard the reports in the facility use committee meetings about 4 Peaks, I thought it was just a money pit. But when I see that we're only around 24,000 in the hole right now, and we have 8 empty rooms, to me, I think that there is maybe still some potential there to make it a little bit more of a biz hub / community learning center.
Yeah, it's just that it's a zoning violation, and I've checked that with the town and with our attorney. And I don't know the answer, because we're locked in, right? We have agreements with people, so, if you live in that community and you continue to add businesses, and now you have more parking, more traffic, more people coming through, it's not designed, that land is not designed for that purpose. And so I think what happens is you continue to invest in that, and then neighbors do get concerned, and now all of a sudden you may have to shut the whole thing down, right?
Yeah.
And so I just don't think it's good practice to be, continuing with something that we know is not being done correctly. Like, it's just, the setup is not, it's not done according to the.
I would echo what Dr. J said. We're just not in the landlord business. We're not set up to be in the landlord business. I want to respectfully disagree. It is a money pit. It is. And I, like you, walked through McDowell Mountain, the current McDowell Mountain, and there's some degree of sadness thinking, okay, we're going to mothball that building and we're going to reimagine part of it for a preschool, which I'm very excited about. So I get that. And when I first walked through Four Peaks, I can remember the first time I walked through the building, I was like, boy, this is such a neat place. But at the end of the day, it's just a money pit. And what we do collect from our tenants, the two biggest tenants that take up the two largest space, is well below fair market value. And if we were to keep the building at a minimum, we would have to start charging them market value.
Which I think there might be an opportunity for if they're interested in keeping
They're not.
the space.
I can say for certain that one of them is not. And if we raise the rent, they will absolutely leave.
Well, wouldn't they have to find somewhere else to go?
They
and it would
would.
just be more expensive?
They would,
Because rates are not
correct.
affordable.
Yeah, but they've been paying, if it's who I think it is, they've only been paying $800 or $900 a month, correct?
And that's all been done before.
That was an Even deal, by the way. Even's the one who dumped that on us when they left the building. They didn't sign that contract. But, they've been squirreling away their money. They're ready to go and to where they think.
We just, again, though, I just want to keep coming back to that, all the time we spend in that building is taken away from kids and our first purpose, which is maintaining our buildings, our, things that need to get done. And when you start hiring people now to maintain that building, now you're cutting into any of those profits that you have. So when we look at saying, and it's not even a profit, but let's just say the money coming in, yes, it is nice to have some rental money that you can use for various things. I'm a big fan of that. That's great. But we're also not we're not paying for someone to be there full time, right? We are using our own custodial staff, our own maintenance workers. Everything else we do is going into that for something that's not related to the day-to-day operations of the schools. And so, again, if it was zoned for that, and there was a huge potential to bring in more and more businesses, and someone, we used to have, like I said, if there was someone else managing it, I think we would be we listen to that, obviously, but it's still at the end of each year, the end of each month, every time the air conditioning goes out, we have to fix that right away. And so they can't, especially in August, September, April, May. And so we've had, air conditioning was out there a lot. We had a lot of repair this August.
We repaired, even when I began just as helping Rob out with facilities, we've done at least $105,000 worth of air conditioning. And that was only one and a half tenants. I'm concerned that that's going to become an issue this summer. That we're going to lose some air conditioning before you know it. We're going to need $17,000-$18,000 replacing, air conditioning out there.
Yeah, well, the goal would definitely be to be making enough money that it covers itself. And
it takes a special tenant as well, because you don't have, there's no signage really. It's hard to do signage there.
Yeah, the town doesn't permit it.
So.
Well, and I like that you made the point that a lot of them are educational related. Couldn't we capitalize on that and have it be more of like a community learning center where any kind of business can host events or seminars or educational type things?
Yeah, I just think that the school district, though, shouldn't be the one doing that. I think that's the part I struggle with. And And when I say education, we're talking KDA dance and karate, I think are the closest thing to, is there anything else in there?
Well, the watch company,
He
has
does hire
kids as-
local,
Right,
yeah.
he has interns and,
Sure.
and then Bob's Free Bikes is a nonprofit, so,
Well,
yeah.
And there's the film room there, the green screen room, and we're talking about having a class at the high school next year. That could be something that, you tie together that way as well, where it's something that the community has access to and businesses, but that also our school has access to
Right, but I think we
these
can,
specialty type
sure,
rooms.
I think we can repurpose that green room into empty space at another building and keep it alive. But then you're traveling, you have students traveling during the school day. It just presents a lot of issues, and I think getting back to the, the purpose of why I'm bringing it to you is that I just don't feel that there's enough there to maintain it, and I think it's an opportunity for us to get it off of our finances. One of the things, I'm going to speak to the bond later, but one of the things that did come up was that we have empty buildings, we're not doing anything with them. I'm doing something with it right now. I'm asking that we consider that because, again, that building has value, the land has some value to somebody. Now, we could put it up for sale and nobody buys it. We could put it out that we're going to leave. All we're asking for when we do bring this to a vote is to bring it to voters for approval, to sell it, and then we have a period of time to decide what we do with it. I don't know if it will sell at all. We have somebody coming April 12th to discuss the potential of, someone is interested in it. They'll be speaking on April 12th about that. But it's a very unique situation, that building, and it's just something I don't think we can continue to support as a district.
And, I agree. I mean, I'm not an advocate for selling Four Peaks because, like you, I have nostalgia. My child went there. We had closed it before my second child went through, so I have a lot of memories in Four Peaks. But as I said, there were issues then. My concern is that with renters in there, we technically are a landlord. We have to abide by the Arizona Landlord Tenant Act. So if the air conditioner does go out and it can't be repaired, then we're in charge of a new air conditioner. You only have a certain amount of time to do that. We should be focusing on our buildings that have students in them. That is our priority, is to educate and make sure that our students are in a safe and secure building. And I think by putting money into Four Peaks, even if we can get more renters, it's never going to be a moneymaker. If we break even, that's great, but it needs a lot of repairs. So if we have to put $5 million in there to bring it up to, the plumbing issues, because eventually if you get more renters, they're going to have to use more bathrooms.
But is that, yes,
And
that's
the-
for sure. But
And-
that's
and-
also, 5 million is quoted to bring it up to student.
Right, but even still, just $1 million. When are we gonna recoup $1 million from renters? So that's the thing, is that the chances of us, putting in $1 million of plumbing, if we have more renters, because they have to use the different bathrooms, and, then we have to turn on other AC units that have been off for all these years, or at least turned way up that we're not using them, we don't know that those are gonna work. And so it just opens like a whole new can of worms. And again, we're funneling money because we've signed contracts with somebody into a building where we have no kids.
And let me just add, I met with Mike Tyler. He was the one who was the consultant that was working with us. That was prior to this year. He was no longer working with us when I started, but he did come out and walk the building with me and gave me some background on the Biz Hub. And he said that the rents are where they're at because you're getting basically kind of what you pay for here. It's a low rent because you're not having that storefront. You're not having, the visibility. It's the watch company's a perfect example of that one, company that's really thrived in there, right? And they're actually right now looking to expand into Gilbert. They are interested in keeping this because they've been there for a while, but I don't know how long they're gonna stay and when it's all said and done.
You can write that into the contract.
You could. Obviously, KDA Dance, we have lots of other spaces available if they wanted to continue to rent, so we could continue to bring in that money. I've offered to work with them regarding the new McDowell Mountain Elementary School. There's a dance room there, there's a gym there. There's opportunity for them to rent that area out, which is even a better space for them. Same with karate and some of these other we're very open to renting our facilities out, but when you do it permanently and you have, and then become that landlord, it just, again, it's something very unique, and it's not, and if the zoning were, commercial, I think maybe a little bit different conversation, but again, to invest money into a building to make, not even break even, or even if we get a few renters in and we do break even, there's always gonna be a maintenance issue with that building that's gonna come in, and it's gonna take away from the profit, in my opinion.
And I think we have to be careful, there's only, right now, we have a few renters in there, but as we said, we've already been noted by the town. We've already gotten a violation notice from the town before that we were, not in code. And so, it's a fine line when you say, well, I can rent to you, but not to you, because, these renters, yes, they do have things that are related to kids, but, somebody else could fight that, and then we're battling that as well. So I think it just opens up a lot of area that, as a school district, we shouldn't be delving into.
Are all of these things going to be discussed again before any actions are taken, or is this the first?
This is an ongoing, this will be an ongoing discussion. As Dr. J said, we have someone coming on the 12th that will be giving a presentation on what they would like to do with Four Peaks, if we choose to sell it or lease it. These are just open discussions, so no decisions. We will have to make a decision most likely sometime in May for anything that we want to have on the ballot, because there is a deadline for that. So,
And if approved, Jeremy, who came and spoke to us about all the different options, our consultants would also work with getting, I believe, that out, that those buildings are available to organizations that might be interested. Okay.
Anybody else have any comments or questions they would like to discuss tonight regarding Four Peaks?
One last question. If we are selling it, are we looking to get it rezoned, or are we just selling as is?
We just sell it, they handle all that, we're just getting rid of the building.
Okay. That's it for me.
Thank you, John.
All right, so moving on to McDowell Mountain.
Is that it for me?
I think so.
Well, I can hang in as long as you like, but,
Let's get
The
through
whole front
McDowell
row is
Mountain,
open.
and then you can be excused. But wait till we're done with McDowell Mountain, just
Are
in
we gonna do
case.
that right now?
Yeah.
You
We're
want
gonna
me to
talk
stand
about
here?
McDowell Mountain. You can sit down if you want, you don't have to
No,
stand
I'll
there.
stand.
So,
If I sit down, I may fall asleep.
so with McDowell Mountain,
Speaking of being in shape, right?
Thank you.
I do, so with McDowell Mountain, I believe there's more potential for McDowell Mountain than there is for Four Peaks. However, I do still believe that we should entertain opportunities that come from the possibility of selling and leasing or exchanging it. Now, the part of that is that we are working on obviously opening that up as a preschool. So that's why I want to say that there's potential there, because our enrollment is already up. I believe we're, I think we'll double enrollment by the time school starts. We're getting closer to that number
For preschool,
for preschool.
let's be clear.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes. So we've had a lot of interest, and we've just begun our advertising. We have signs coming up soon. We just got them, so they're gonna be up around, encouraging people to go. And it's gonna take a little time also, because a lot of people are already in a preschool or have already kind of made some decisions. So it may take a year for us to really see some growth there. But right now, I'm already happy with the growth, because if that school hits 50, there's a good chance all 50 are going to kindergarten. If all 50 go to kindergarten, that's a great number, because we had 58 this year. So you're talking, you gotta pick up 9 kids from the community that aren't in our preschool. So the hope is that will grow. And so my thought is that we could, if someone were interested in the building, we could talk about, that wing is a new wing. So the kindergarten wing, where the preschool is gonna be, was built in 1998. And it is much newer, and it is set up very nicely for a preschool. It has bathrooms, lots of space. And we are trying to limit what we do there, but at the same time, there's some things we have to do to make it appealing to parents to enroll there. And so my hope is that if we did sell that or we did lease it, my guess is that all of these sales would only be for housing. I can't see anything else going in there but housing, and that's just in all the conversations I've had with, our consultants, people in the community, our facility use group, some that are contractors. So if it's going to be housing, I think there's a potential for that building, for the preschool to stay and be a daycare within the community, a preschool within the community, and the rest of the building and the rest of the land could be demoed and repurposed. So that's why I think it's important that we probably should get approval for both buildings, since, again, McDowell Mountain also has quite a bit of need. It has 2.76 in high urgency needs and another $1 million in moderate urgency needs. So you're getting close to that $4 million mark. And again, there's more natural light there. It's a newer building. When I say newer, it's still, was it 1980?
1986.
86, so it's not really newer, but it's newer than Four Peaks. And again, we will have students there, so the preschool could grow. We think when we're done, we'll be licensed up to 250 kids in that site. We get 250 kids in preschool. I think all our problems as a district are solved. We'll see where it goes, but right now, we're happy with where the enrollment's been in just a couple of months, and it's still early for parents to make decisions. So I would suggest that if we do approve to put the buildings on, that I would get approval for both. That doesn't mean we have to sell both or lease both or exchange both at the same time. It just gives us a period of time, I want to say it's 20 years?
20 years.
20 years to make a decision. So then we're ready to move as needed. Let's say the new McDowell Mountain has great growth. Let's say the unthinkable happens and we have to add on a building, and we decide at that time we're going to move preschool over there and just abandon that building completely for McDowell Mountain because we have more space and we could do that, then that would be a great time to sell it. But then we don't have to go through this process again. It's already approved to sell when we want to sell it, when that time comes. And again, when you think about putting $4 to $5 million into that building, and let's say it was to open up as a elementary school again, I just don't know how it's going to compare to the new school. The new school is going to be much more beautiful, much more natural light, much more space. And so I don't know. I don't know where that's going to go, but I'm not ready to say abandon it completely like Four Peaks. But I do think it's important to get it approval for when that time does come.
Thank you. And yeah, I would just like to clarify that if anything that goes on the ballot for sale, whether it be the land or the buildings, if the voters approve that it can be sold, we have 20 years to decide to sell it. So just because it goes on the ballot and is approved doesn't mean it's going to be sold immediately. It's just, then it doesn't have to go back out for election at another time because elections cost money. And then, Kane, I would just like to clarify, none of these properties, the Four Peaks, McDowell, or any of the 3 parcels are zoned for multifamily. Is that correct?
That was my understanding, yes.
Right. They're all zoned. Dana, you know a lot about that.
Single family.
Single family. So
Detached.
if somebody came in and wanted to make multifamily housing, that's between them and the town.
There's much more land at McDowell Mountain, and it's, I think, the location, I think, could be, I think there's more potential for the building than the other one. But I believe that, again, it's more about just having that flexibility as needed. If it's going to sit with 2/3 of the building empty, and there's a way to keep the preschool there, or to take some of the money, that we do get from this and be able to maybe do some renovations at the other site to be able to bring preschool over. I don't see that happening without another building, though. When you look at the class size of 15 in a class, real estate goes fast in one of those buildings. But I do think there's a potential, and it would be something that I would love to see is someday have at the new McDowell Mountain. It'd be great to have a need for a new building and be able to have preschool brought over and additional classrooms put in so that we can have room to grow, that'd be great.
Okay. Dana?
I'm in favor of getting the decision out there so that we have that option. But on the other hand, when we built the middle school, we spent a year and a half trying to figure out how we could put a middle school on the 3 other parcels that are unplatted. And it was not good. You know, this is Fountain Hills, not Fountain Flats. That McDowell site's the flattest, other than Four Peaks, the flattest site we have, which enormously reduces the cost of construction and the operational aspects of multi-tiered buildings and so forth. So I think the time comes to make a decision of what we can do at the time. I think we really have to make sure that if we're going to plan 30 years and 40 years and 50 years out in the future, and something changes in the demographics here that brings young families in here again, we have to really make sure that we don't give up the opportunity to put additional facilities there. Now, keep in mind that the middle school property is not ours. We lease it from the state land department. And we had a 70-year lease, I believe, to begin with, and now we're, down to 50 years. So, and there's land, another 20 acres that we could build on the north side of the current buildings, but we're running short on the land. So we've got to be very careful how we plan to use that facility. So I just want to make sure when the time comes, and we've got 20 years if that should happen, that we can sell it or lease it or trade it. But I really think we have to understand that is the flattest or best location for us to build a new facility if in fact we need it.
And I think we can verify with School Facility Board. I thought I remember at the last meeting I was at that if the time came and let's just say we only have the 3 plots of land and we need a school, I thought I remember, and I'll check and get back to this conversation later, but if it makes sense for them to use a different piece of land or something, they might be able to, I think, work through that where, I don't know if there's any other open land that would be available, probably by the middle school would be my guess. So they might be willing to say we could put, another site over there, whether it's a middle school or a high school someday. But we can get more information on that. But having the land, because what we're seeing, I've seen a couple districts where they're having to build and they don't have any land. And so they're having to work through the School Facility Board on how to get that land and how much it costs, and it's kind of a mess. So having land, I think, helps us, but we can definitely, before we make any final decisions, look at the feasibility of building a school on those other 3 properties before making a final decision on McDowell Mountain. I'd love to see the preschool stay, and even, might even be remodeled as part of, that community by a developer. But again, that might be a stretch.
Okay. Libby?
So when we're talking about each parcel of land, so for Four Peaks, when I looked at separate from the Boys and Girls Club, it looks like we have about 3 acres. And then at McDowell,
I
about
think
6.
it's like almost 4, it's like 3.78 or 3.87, I think.
And McDowell is about 6.
I don't
For
think
my-
McDowell's a
Bigger.
full 6.
Well, it goes on the north side, south side of the wash too.
Then yeah, it would be, yeah, because it's like, what it sits on now is like 4.5, so.
Then you got the south side of the wash, is another 2 or 3 acres.
I think that's actually in our,
Yeah, and I don't think we would,
it was here.
I think the focus would be on Four Peaks immediately, and then see where enrollment goes, see what happens with the preschool, see what happens with the new McDowell Mountain. Could you move students back into McDowell Mountain in 2 or 3 years if enrollment went sky high? Yeah. I mean, you'd have to do some upgrades, but if you have that many kids coming in, you probably do everything you can to keep them, so.
Well, and can I just go back to the land conversation for just a second? Because in our board packet, it had all the land appraisals and Four Peaks. So if we looked at those 3 empty parcels and Four Peaks, and I took the lower valuation of those properties and we won the lottery and we sold all for that lower valuation, it would be approximately 11 million in our pocket. And I'd like to kind of hear what, if we're looking at the Gordian report, it's 27.9 million over the next 15 years realistically, because we're now about 2 years in from then. So even selling, if we looked at having a flash sale, right, and not something that we necessarily want to do, but selling all of our properties wouldn't even cover the projection. I mean, we could take away what the 5 million projected.
Yeah,
if it's
even
4
nine,
peaks,
even the
but-
9 million. And you're right, I agree that it probably wouldn't solve all our needs, and then we have nothing for the future. And I can't support that, because you just never know what's gonna happen, right? There was years ago, the Elman properties were coming in, and maybe they weren't, maybe they were, but something ever comes in that has, a major development, and we have limit, and we don't have any additional land, it becomes really challenging. And then you run into, I think, what we had now, which is a very odd model. And I believe over time, as this town has grown and shrunk and grown and shrunk, decisions were made to have a K2, a 3-4-5, a 4-8. A lot of parents don't like that model. And I really believe that's one of the number one reasons why students are in Scottsdale School District, is because of the model. I firmly, and I've seen it as a parent over the years, watched my children's friends leave and talked to those parents and had conversations about why that is. And that model has just not been conducive to building, what parents want in the community.
Can I ask one more question about the Gordian report? So it had a backlog in 2021 when the report was done, right, of $0.8 million that needed to be done. 2022, now we're into 2023. Have any of the issues that were identified in this report addressed? And if so,
Yeah.
the approximate dollar amount that was addressed?
Roofing and fire alarms were addressed. That's almost $600,000. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say it's $578 that we've taken care of. Then there's the air conditioning, piecemealing the air conditioning together between all of the buildings. Again, I'm going to say off the top of my head, $160,000 for that. I'm going to say nearly $1 million, but I'm at a disadvantage because I do not have the Gordian report in front of me. But I believe that when the Gordian report was initially created, and before I spent, I want to say, the better part of 16 hours going through it with them line item by line item, the original amount on that report of immediate, intermediary, long-term needs was in the neighborhood of $43 million. And that was back when the report was generated. I think I pared it down with them based on providing, they didn't have, a lot of their pricing was out of scale to me. So that was part of what we did, was adjust their pricing. I want to say that we pared that down to $37 million. But I would say $1.5 million tops is what we've spent.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding McDowell Mountain comments? Okay, hearing none, I think then we'll move on to the override.
Yeah. Can I speak to both here?
You can.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
You're
yes,
done.
thank you,
You don't
John.
need me for anything else?
No, enjoy.
Right, yeah, you call me tomorrow.
We'll have another one of these so they can gather their questions and
Every
we'll ask
night
next
works
time.
for me. No, I don't mind coming on. All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
John.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with the bond and override, so I've done a lot of thinking about this, and actually I want to present some things here. So I think I have it set up already. I had it set up. So I've done a lot of thinking about this, and I just want to start by saying that when I started and when I came back, I had no idea that there was an election. I knew we had other things to do, but the election was not something that, until Patrick on his way out and left me his final, here's your to-do list, that I saw that. And I admit that, coming in, it was August really by the time I started to get back to meeting people and getting out there, and the election was in November, and I just did not have enough time to feel, to do the things that need to be done. I'm just gonna be real honest about that. And so I've reflected a lot since that time. And what I did is I kept track throughout the election. I spoke to many groups, and I've never done that before. So I took all the feedback that I received, and I kept it kind of, as notes of, if we ever do this again, these are the things that I need to address. And a lot of you know me, I'm very big on feedback and very big on, if there's something we can do better, we need to be better at it. And so when I looked at this, these are the things that came up. Enrollment is down, the district is dying. We have assets that we're not doing anything with. Wasteful spending by the administration. Historic low achievement scores. The 2013 bond was not utilized for what was approved. You were asking for money without a breakdown of projects. So those are the things that kind of I hit when I went through this process last time. And I wish I had been on the job for longer before the last election, so I could have been maybe a little more prepared. I just want to hit on a few things here. So first of all, I want to walk through these one by one. Enrollment has been down for a decade. And there it is, going from 2013 to 2023. But I want to note that for the first time in a decade, it's up. And even 2019 to 2020, it was still down 15, 20 kids, something like that. So we've reversed that trend. And last I heard, we were almost 90. I think we're up another 2 for the next board meeting. We have a couple in the queue. We might be up another 5. We might be getting close to 100. So being up 86 to 95 students, somewhere in that range, for this district is huge. That's a huge, it brought us in, I think Tyler said in the last meeting, $300,000 more in M&O budget that we weren't expecting. Okay, now that's great. And that's what we have to keep doing, is we have to keep bringing in and keep that enrollment going up. So at the time when that comment was made that declining enrollment is happening, it was accurate at the time, yeah. But I'll say a year later, it's no longer accurate. We are actually heading up. And I hope it continues to head up as we move into next year. We have assets that we're not doing anything with. That's why I'm bringing tonight the 2 buildings, because I heard that a lot. Let's do something with Four Peaks. Let's do something with McDowell Mountain. They're sitting empty. Let's utilize those assets before we come in and bring a bond to the voters. And I'm asking tonight that we consider that and we move forward with that, listening to what the feedback was. I do believe it is time that we do that. Wasteful spending by administration. I've had Tyler and Alicia go through the last couple of years, and I can say that I can't speak to everything that happened in the past. I wasn't here. But I can say that this year, we have cut a lot of spending this year under my watch. We've reduced capital spending. Only spending we've really done is for the consolidation. We have been we've leaned on our community. We've worked with people in the community to be fiscally responsible. And I have some examples of things where we've thought outside the box, okay? One of the first things I did when I came in is I cut the PLP online program for the elementary school. I don't believe elementary kids should be learning online for anything. So we cut it. It saved us a lot of money. All right? Any software programs, any surveying programs, anything that was bought in the past, we either asked to get out of them, which we did, or we waited till they expired and we did not renew. We purchased a small software program for consolidation in district business called Asana. It's a very affordable app for 10 user licenses. That's like one of our big purchases. We bought some items that will go into consolidation. We bought televisions, but we bought them on sale. We bought them on sale right around the holidays to save money. We bought 15 or 20 of them, got a really good deal on them, and they're ready to be installed. Okay? We got the football field done. Thanks to generous donors, especially in the Fire Rock community, but across lots of donors coming in. Families I've known for a long time, 1,000 here, 1,000 there. Ace Hardware, Desert Canyon. I don't want to leave anyone out, but lots of help to get that done in the Booster Club, and Tana, and Coach Zahner. We got that done. And the cost, and I've heard a lot of things out there just not true. The cost to the district, I'm expecting at most would be around $125,000, but that's for a $750,000 field. That's a great deal for our district. Okay, we got the warranty covered, even though it expired, because I worked really hard with AstroTurf to get that done. So we saved money there. We applied for grants for SROs. We'll see what happens. We're in the process of finishing that now. I'm just finalizing some things with MCSO. We also are putting in that grant to have all our counselors covered, so that saves M&O costs. We just wrote a grant to get the small gym, which will be the middle school gym, renovated at 1/3 the cost. All of the painting of all the classrooms at the new McDowell Mountain and the new Fountain Hills Middle School is being done by the Rotary and the Kiwanis group for free, which I'm so thankful for because I'm a member of both. And we're expecting 100 people to come and paint on April 29th, I think it is. Sherwin-Williams, John went and worked with Sherwin-Williams, got all of our paint drastically discounted, I think 70% off, something like that, for all the paint. So we've thought about that. We did our first annual picnic to bring up staff morale, try to get our retention rate up for staff, which I will say is back up where it used to be. We only have, I think, 3 or 4 teacher openings to fill right now. We've had a couple we fill, but the teacher retention is very high this year. Very thankful to our teachers for coming back. The staff picnic was paid for completely by donations from Safeway, Bash's, Kiwanis and Rotary, providing all the food. And those are just a few examples of how we're being fiscally responsible. So I just want to clear that up, that we have tried to save money in every single place we can, okay? And because of that, I'm not going to recommend that we go for an override. And I'm going to tell you why. We have override needs. We have capital needs that we need to get done. But I also feel that the bond is more important. The buildings need to be repaired. There's so much more work to be done with that. And so I'll come back to that in a minute as I finish this list about my recommendation. Historic low achievement scores. I just want to be very clear that is not, I can't speak to multiple years back. But I can say traditionally our district has been an A-rated district, excelling before there were letter grades. And we've had some of the highest achievement possible before COVID. 2 of our schools are still A+ schools of excellence. And I want to be clear that is very hard to get. You have to write 50 to 75 page application of all the things you're doing to help kids, all the things you're doing to be excellent. And then a group of 10 to 12 administrators come and spend 3 days at your site, and they randomly select students, just random. They bring in parents, they bring in staff, and they ask, are all these things being done at a high level? And if the answer is yes to all that, you get the designation. But a lot of the schools that apply for that don't even get past the first round. We have 2 schools that are current A+ schools of excellence, and I'm a judge for that organization now, and I've been through it on the other side of it. It's hard to get, and 2 of our schools have that right now. Our high school has been traditionally very strong and has had some of the highest AZ merit scores in the state for comprehensive public high schools that accept all students. In fact, we celebrated in 2019 when our scores, I believe, were the 2nd highest in the state of all comprehensive public high schools. And when I talk about comprehensive public high schools, I'm talking about if you walk in the door and want to register, that we take you. In Fountain Hills, we take all our kids, and we educate them at a high level. The high school has also been a U.S. News and World Report national and best high school for the last 4 years. And again, that's based on test scores, that's based on AP pass rates, that's based on all the excellent things that need to be happening in a school. So I want to be very clear that there's been high achievement. Now, did the pandemic put a bump in the road? Absolutely did for everybody. When I was at Arcadia, I went through that as a principal, and I'm happy to say we raised our letter grade during the pandemic to an A. And so we are back on track, and we're working towards getting back to these levels, but historically they've been there. And lastly, we're the campus of champions, 25 AIA state championships. And so look at the smiles on those kids' faces. That year we won 5 in 1 year. It was a fantastic year. So we achieve on the court, we achieve on the field, we achieve in the auditorium, we achieve in the classroom. Our kids have done great, great work. So I just want to clear that up because it's easy sometimes to look at things that are written or things that are said and not have that to look at. The 2013 bond was not utilized for what it was approved for. I spent a lot of time looking at that information, and I just want to show you that this is what was approved. Safety and security upgrades, renovations and improvements, improvements to school sites and athletic facilities. That was the football stadium originally, the first turf field. Pupil transportation vehicles. It came to $8 million was the last bond in 2013. And so I went through with finance, and we went through these, and I looked at all the big costs. And here they are. The athletic project was a big one. That was the turf, the all-weather track, additional concrete, additional concession stand renovation, soccer, middle school, soccer field renovation. So a lot went into that project. It was a big one. There were also summer projects that went on, including flooring, building maintenance. That was another large cost, and that happened right after it passed. Now, I don't have a lot of information on that because it was back in 2014, but based on all the historical information I've been able to gather, I think a lot of deferred maintenance was handled that first summer with that bond money to get things back up to code. There was a huge fan coil project that took up about $800,000, something like that. That was a big project that falls under what it was supposed to be used for. Transportation, several buses and vehicles were purchased at that time. And I want to thank John because we have a very smooth running transportation department. We're one of the only districts I know of in the state that has a fully staffed bus driver crew. And we gave them huge raises for those who've been here a long time back in December. And I can tell you our bus drivers are very, very happy in their jobs and they like what they do. And that's great. We did a roofing project at Four Peaks, which I wish we hadn't done. No, I'm kidding. But I wasn't there. We did safety renovations. I was a part of those. We did all the bollards in the front, all the renovations in the lobbies. We did new fencing, new ornamental fencing, new cameras, IT upgrades. So I went through it all, and honestly, I see all those projects being done according to what the bond was utilized for. And $8 million in 2014 obviously went a little bit farther than it would today, but it wasn't going to prepare the district for all the future needs that it did need at the time. And again, I can't speak to all those things because, again, I wasn't there. And then lastly, the last question I got was, you're asking for money without a breakdown of projects. And yeah, I said I was new at this, and I spoke to what was on the form, what we were looking at. We've since gone back, and we have reviewed, basically, what, oh, that's not showing up. There we go. I've reviewed, and this doesn't have any prices to it right now. We're just in the beginning talks of it. But I went through and I looked at different things like fire and school safety, building envelope, HVAC, energy upgrades, and then reimagining the district, which is important that we do that. So I'll hit on each of these real quickly. With fire and school safety, a lot of the fire's been done since the Gordon report came out. And that's a good thing that those things have been done. But there's a lot to do with school safety. And we're looking at some really innovative things. And one of the coolest things I've seen out there are these new classroom safe rooms. So in the corner of your room, of a classroom, there are 2 whiteboards that are flush against the wall. You can write on them, you do math, you can do whatever you want with them. But in the need of an active shooter situation, a small child can walk over, they pull a handle, and the boards come out on a track and expand into a box, and it's a safe room that's ballistic. You can put a whole class in there. Those didn't exist years ago. We could put those in every classroom and be the safest district in the state. And our teachers would feel very safe, our kids would feel safe, our parents would feel safe knowing that you can do that. That's pretty amazing. We looked at, we have to convert chain link to ornamental fencing. Ornamental fencing is much better with keeping, people from coming in than chain link. We have a lot of cameras work to still do, ballistic film on our windows, replacement of windows, door access control, gun detection alarms are now available where if a gunshot goes off, it sets off the alarm for the whole building, so you immediately go into lockdown. Those aren't too expensive. We need to replace all the locks so they lock from the inside. We have worked with the fire department, again, saving money. We have fire hoses that we can use on the hinge of the door. If you look at the hinge of the door, put a fire hose on that, no one can get in even if the door is unlocked. But again, you want to be as safe as possible. Window coverings, and there's a whole list. So I've done what was asked of me, is to put a list together. We have the building envelope, we need new lighting, we need new carpet. And so basically the idea here is that if the bond passes and we have that money to use, we would then fix all of these systems so that the buildings are ready for the next 20 to 30 years. And then all of our capital, all of the things that we get can go towards athletics, arts, technology, all those things that we don't have to spend any money on now because it's all been updated and replaced. We looked at HVAC. We need HVAC units replaced so that they're more energy efficient, so our utility bills go down. Plumbing issues, we need to get those assessed and have that money available to fix any plumbing. We had 1 week of learning loss this year with a plumbing issue, so we want to look at that. And then we want to look at the energy updates again, trying to save on those costs that we have each month. And then finally reimagining the district, because it is important that we reimagine the district to meet the needs of our families, because the only way that I can give raises to our teachers is by having more students come in the door. It's M&O budget. And the only way I can do that is to have more M&O budget. The only way I can get that is more students in the door. So when we got this extra student count this year, we did give another raise. We gave a raise in December. We gave another raise at the end of the year for this year's upcoming contracts. In the December raise, the administration did not take a raise. When I redid my contract in December, I did not take a raise. I said the only way I'll take a raise is if it's tied to teacher raises. So if they get a raise next year, I get a raise. If they don't, I don't. And that was my commitment to our teachers, because they need to be paid in a level where we can keep them. And so when we went through all this, and again, I have more work to do on this, but I wanted to at least show everyone tonight that we are putting this together. We are focusing on how we can come to you and have a detailed line by line, these are the things we're going to purchase, this is why we need them, because in the end, we have to maintain these buildings, or eventually it is gonna get to a point where we're gonna have a big problem. These buildings are now, the high school is 30 years old. The new elementary school we're remodeling is 23 years old, 22, 20?
It was
21.
2002, so
Yeah,
it's
21.
21 years old.
So it's getting up there. The last thing I want to share here is just on the consolidation project. And I want to be very clear on the consolidation project, that we're using savings. Okay? And that's because Dr. Allen did a nice job as business manager over the years of saving. And so we're tapping into that savings to make McDowell Mountain just an amazing place to learn. So the 800 kids under the age of 5 that live in our community will pick us. Because the magic of that building is the teachers, but if you don't give them a chance, it doesn't help us any. So we need to get kids in the door, and we're doing some things that, yes, are wow factor. But the wow factor is to get kids to enroll. And if you look at, the great example I look at is GCU. What GCU's done over the years with beautiful buildings and expansion and just growing that university to a level where it's at today. And we believe that by putting money into McDowell Mountain, that we're gonna have more kids enroll. And if it doesn't work in the end, only time will tell, then the kids of this community have a beautiful place to learn, and I'm okay with that, because I think they need that. The other goal of consolidation is to raise teacher salaries. So we're spending capital money in the hope that we can bring in more M&O. The more kids that enroll, the more I can give our teachers. And if you look, this is this year. Higley starts at 54,000. If you're teachers in the room, you're already coming back, so.
Don't even think about it.
54,000 in Higley. Scottsdale, 47.5, PV, 46, Mesa, 53.5, Fountain Hills, 38.5.
What do the asterisks mean?
The asterisks mean that they may use some of their site fund money, but even if they use all of it, I think Higley would still be at 50 or 51, and Mesa would probably be around 49, 50, somewhere around there. So they use some of their 301 money in their base. Now, I can tell you, we've already raised that 38.5 quite a bit in 1 year. But if I want to keep raising salaries, the only way I can do that is through M&O budget, and the only way I can do that is bring more kids in the door. So when we talk about retention, if we want to keep teachers, we have to pay them. And 38.5 is not going to get it done. So we have to keep working. And the consolidation, all of that consolidation work is to bring people in the door. And if we can replicate 90 again next year and be up 180 in 2 years, a lot of our problems are solved because those kids stay with us. Every kid that leaves in kindergarten, goes to Scottsdale, Mesa, or somewhere else, costs us $75,000 over their lifetime. So if we take that $75,000 and we take what we're spending on consolidation, you can see that if just a handful of kids come, we're going to get back most of our money over time. And that will save a lot of our teachers. So with again, coming back to, I would love to go for both. I think we need both. But if I had to pick and I had to say what's the biggest need of the district needs the bond. We need to get the buildings up to date. We need to get these things fixed. And I will do my best over the next couple of years to live within the means we have of capital, which we get from the state, which is not enough in most years to do it, but we will continue to cut costs, not wastefully spend, save our money, and hopefully we can get through for a couple of years, build some trust with the community, and come back to you for an override then. But if we don't get this bond passed, I'm very weary of where these buildings are going to go in the next 5 years.
Thank you. I'll open it up for the board to discuss.
I do like everything you said. Obviously, as a former teacher, and I go along with this, the pay that we are giving is, it's not comparable to this area, let alone anywhere else that has decent education in the entire country. So that's important. If the buildings are in bad shape, as we've seen, we're in trouble. Because the longer we wait, just as you do in your own home, unless you start fixing things in between years, if you wait till you go to sell and you have to fix the whole house, you have a big problem. So the same thing with this. one of the main things with going for a bond or override is really to let the community know what things are being used for. And I think Dr. J outlining exactly what we would use it for is what we need to let everybody know. And then let's assume that we do pass it, like we hope. And then every year or every few months or whenever you speak to any community group, to let them know, here it is. We did fix the air conditioning. We did do this. We did that. Because I think that's the main thing, that the questions that everybody had. We need to make sure that, as was said earlier when we had the speakers, that the truth comes out. You know, as you outlined everything that people were questioning, they were questioning it without knowing that we had actually done all that. So this is important that we keep telling the community. And when we go out for the bond, if we decide to do that, or selling the buildings or anything of that kind, we need a lot of help. We can't just do it. It was Dr. Sweeney that was out there talking before. We need the teachers. We need everybody in the community that helps us for everything else to help with this as well. So it can't just be on you. It has to be on everybody.
I just
Go
have a
ahead.
couple questions.
Yeah.
First, I have, you like to look at other districts around us, so doing the same. So I like how Scottsdale has on their website a very transparent bond and capital override. They include annual reports with the projected use of funds, as well as what they've spent them on. So if this is a route that our district or our community chooses to go down, I would encourage us to do something similar.
Absolutely. I'll even host it in my coffee sessions. I'll give a breakdown every session of what we're doing with it.
Because they have, the line item plan. I like that you had that up there. I think it's great. It shows the needs that our district has, but we don't have that line item. Like what truly are we looking at spending for X on that plan?
Sure.
My next question is, when you're looking at asking our community to support a bond, what is your projected lifespan that this bond would last? Meaning, when would we anticipate that we would have additional needs and have to go back out and ask for another bond?
Yeah, I think just looking at everything we've looked at, the hope is to get all the buildings refreshed and updated so that they're in good shape for 20 years, is my hope. Again, you're going to have needs that come up, you're going to have things that break and things that are going to be an issue. But I think if we do this right and we replace all the air conditioning, we do all, we fix all the roofing, all the maintenance that's been deferred, all those things so that all the buildings are really up to the highest level they should, as we've seen with our current middle school. It's about 20 years in and we're starting to see more and more issues, but I think it should give us a good refresh for a period of time. And again, not going for the override, I think takes away from those expenditures that people are concerned about. I've heard from people who are tired of buying buses and technology and laptops and curriculum and athletics and things, but none of that's on the table with the bond. It's just buildings. And so we have an investment. We have exterior paint to do at every building, especially the middle school, the current middle school that needs paint. And so all these things add up fast. So yes, I can try to put numbers to it, but as they're changing so dramatically, I don't know how accurate those would be. But I think we would prioritize, these are non-negotiables that have to get done first. And then if we save money and other things are available, we fix those as we go. But my hope is that, and again, if the enrollment goes up, I don't think that's not going to be a bond issue. That's going to be a school facility board issue. So I think we could probably get the buildings all complete and have beautiful spaces for the next 20 years.
One of my concerns is, in the past, I understand it's been a heated topic, but last year we went out for 20 million. We have a total need on our Gordian report of 27.9. Granted, that's over the next many years. But if we're looking at the wow factor, these other things that we want to add that are outside of the Gordian report, I think we need to be realistic and start putting a pen to some numbers and looking at what we really need to address the issues within the Gordian report and also provide our teachers and staff with safe spaces to educate our
Absolutely,
students.
but I think you can take 9 million off that 27 if you don't do anything at Four Peaks or McDowell Mountain. So that brings it down, and then, the number will be decided by the board, but, I can bring a recommendation of what I think it should be, but my hope is that we can get everything done and do some, some nice upgrades to make each site more, just, again, to bring in more enrollment and people to be excited about coming to our middle school, coming to our high school, because we have great facilities and great opportunities for kids. So yes, I think we have to factor all that in. What the total number will be is something we'll have to collectively work on and come up with that number.
And then my last question. So we thank you, Krista, for adding that additional information to our packet about what the election cost in November 2022 versus 2021. That's almost a $31,000 difference just in election fees. What is the cost when Stiefel came out? Because they prepared those packets also, correct?
Yep.
So
Well, they work with us,
Do
yeah.
we know what our all-in cost for an election is?
What'd it come back at?
So I only got the information from the county elections department. I can have Alicia pull any fees to Stifel, and we also have to pay for a translator for the pamphlet. And there was one other, but I can get those costs for you.
Well, we can put multiple questions on at the same price, is my understanding. So if we put Four Peaks on, we put McDowell Mountain on, we put the bond on, then you're getting all three of those questions in one election. Like I said,
But
6
we'd be
months
looking
ago,
at $41,000 potentially to put it on the ballot this
Yep.
November versus about 92 if we waited till 2024.
I understand that. I've looked at our facilities for this entire year. I walk them all the time. I'm out and about. We have some momentum right now with our enrollment, with where we're headed. And we, in my opinion, we have to get going on these renovations and build upon the success we've had. We have been, when it comes to a lot of things in this district, very average. We have to move away from that. We have to move towards that we're providing our students with amazing, experience academically, the arts and athletics, but also the facilities and the classrooms and the space that they learn in is also at a high level. I just believe, like I said, I heard a lot about enrollment over and over and over again coming in. And I've shared over and over again that there's not just one thing. There's a lot of little things that factor into enrollment. But the only way we can give teachers increases is to raise the enrollment. And I was challenged when I was hired to raise enrollment, retain teachers, and kind of reimagine the district. Those are the three things I've been working on this year. And I can say that our enrollment is up, our teacher retention is very high, our overall staff retention is very high, and we're in the process of reimagining. So I just think the longer we wait, the more issues we're going to have. And it's hard to hire here. It's hard to hire in Fountain Hills. It just is. And so the people we have to keep. And we've done a great job of hiring so far. I'm very excited about the people we got coming in. But you saw those salaries. And the only way to close that gap is to get more kids in the door.
Dana?
The difference in that cost will be easily eaten up by inflation. If we wait another year to do a bond, the cost of everything that we wanted to accomplish in this bond is going to be way more than the difference in the cost of the election.
I agree. That's another reason why I think it's important we go for that now. We also, like I said, with the consolidation, we're able to, if approved, we'll be able to complete some things at McDowell Mountain that we don't have the budget to do right now to finalize that. And then move our attention towards the other two sites that, especially the high school, needs a lot of attention, as you saw in the report.
Kane, one of the things that I've read about on the social media pages and heard throughout the community was they didn't like that it was a 20-year bond, that it was a hard sell to get people to buy in, that they're going to be paying for this on their taxes for 20 years. So, they've asked, can it be a shorter bond? Can you speak to the fact of how bonds work? And
I would have to defer to my finance team on that, but my understanding is I've run it through them, and they agree that, it'd be nice to go for the override, but the priority, and so I'm trying to show the community is that we're not asking for everything. We're asking for, let's get these buildings up to date. Let's get them beautiful. Let's make sure that all the properties that surround our schools, that the schools look good, they have a high amount of kids in them. And then I will do my best to live on the budget we have for our capital. And if we run into issues, we'll come back for an override at a later date. But right now, I feel like we can, if I don't have to do all these additional things out of my capital, which I'm doing the whole consolidation out of capital right now, if I don't have to do that, that allows me to use that capital for other purposes. So that's why I think if we get the bond done, it'll put us on a trajectory where it's one less tax for our voters, that we asked for 2 last time, it'd be 1 this time. And again, you know where it's going, so we'll be able to put out there that this is where it's going.
Dana, are you familiar with shorter bonds? Since I've been here, it's been a 20-year bond. So.
Yeah, that's the max, is 20 years, and I've not heard of anybody that wanted to do it for less than that. I mean, just like a mortgage, you can pay it off a lot earlier if you want to. I look at it from a taxpayer standpoint and my age and saying 20 years sounds good to me. And I know there's others that I hang out with that feel the same way. I mean, it's if the assets are going to be brought up to speed and will survive over 20 years, then that's what bonds are for. If you've got an annual cost, then you need an annual income to take care of it. That's what the override is for. But I appreciate what you're saying, and if we can live with, if you can live with that, then I'm fine with the 20-year bond. I mean, yes, there's interest. That's how this finance things work, but the opposite is that, okay, if we don't do this, then our maintenance costs are going to way eat up any interest costs that we're going to have over the course of that bond.
And I think it's such a massive number that is the only way to accomplish it, right? I mean, it's a massive, massive number of need. So I feel more comfortable going out to our community saying support football, support basketball, support band, donate, help us out. They've been great. The community's been great. They've always been great, but they've been even more wonderful this past year. And we've worked on those relationships with so many groups that I think we can do our best to live within those means of capital if I don't have to do all the other work of the bond. And I feel like for our community that's concerned about, the taxes, we're reducing that by 1, and it's for a need that's outside of nice to haves, right? There's needs and there's nice to haves. I'm throwing out the nice to haves and saying, let's just go for the needs.
And historically, Fountain Hills has had extremely low debt. We're not a high debt district. And I pulled some numbers, and when you look at the tax rate, because that's one of the things that's always talked about, Scottsdale has a 3.46% tax rate for education, and Fountain Hills is at 2.11. We're actually one of the lowest in the surrounding areas.
And we have, according to Jeremy, one of our consultants, we have over $100 million in bond capacity for the future. So even if we do a large number this time, we're still setting the future up for if there's another need in 20 years to refresh all the buildings again, right? But I think this is, I just believe that we need to do this now. We need to, I'm going to do everything I can to show the community that we listen, and we're doing what you ask us to do. But we also need to fix these buildings and get them up to the proper level.
Joe, I know the one thing that you haven't talked about yet, and even though it's not in writing, is our mission and vision. You're working with the strategic plan under those circumstances. I think much of what you said is a vision.
Yes.
And I think we need to be really good about making that up in front. I mean, there's no vision on our website. On the other hand, the Fountain Hills Town has no vision on their website. We've been blind as a community. I was on the Strategic Planning Commission chair forever. And we tried to put together a vision. We had Vision Fountain Hills, which is a group of 100 people that tried to come up with a vision. And in the 40-some years I've been here, we've never had a vision of what we want to be. We've made the Republic numerous times for the town that doesn't know what they want to be when they grow up. Are we going to be a retirement town? Are we going to be 55 and older? Are we going to be a multi-generational town? We've never established that as a community. So I'm really thankful that in your group that's working on our strategic plan, that at least the district will have a vision that you've defined very well, but we need to get that out there.
We will. We're finishing up. We've made some progress, giving you some updates along the way. But yeah, we'll have that done, and we'll revamp probably all of our websites over the summer anyway. Like, we have a lot of work to do on that. Summer's a good time to get that done.
I just have mostly comments. I appreciate your discrepancy with all of these issues. I came here expecting to have a lot to say, and I appreciate that you're not looking to sell the land, especially since with the last election, I felt that that was almost like a chess move with the community to try and pressure them into passing the bond and override. And it was something that I spoke to, Joe probably remembers. And then I appreciate you not looking to go for an override and a bond, because I do think that the community, we lost a lot of trust with them. And I think that by you exercising that discrepancy in this issue, you probably gained some confidence in the necessity of a bond. I also really appreciate, I agree with Lillian that this is what people needed to see. I disagree a little bit with that it was already done, because with the last election, I don't think that that was done. I think it was run on the same issues that the 2013 one was run on. So I really appreciate that. The one question I do have are, do we know Dr. Allen's good budgeting practices, and are they something that we could replicate now so that we're still setting ourselves up for a secure future?
We're back on track, I can tell you that. I worked very closely with Rob and saw how he did things. And, you know, he was just very, very meticulous and very, you know, he just always believed in saving for that rainy day, and we're appreciative of that. I actually called him today to thank him again for
You like
that.
the word no.
But he didn't answer. He's retired. No, that's why we brought Tyler and Jeremy in. I mean, let's just be honest. I started the year without a finance director. That's hard. So instead of hiring anybody and just hoping for the best, we did interviews. We didn't like anybody, and I will not settle on hiring. So we brought in the best of the best. And actually, Jeremy just got named superintendent of Tolleson School District as an interim for moving into next year. So these guys are Tyler and Jeremy, and now Alicia coming on board. We hired her in December. I'm very confident with my team, because the joke around constantly is all they do is say no to me. You know, every idea I have, nope, nope, nope. And I have to really work to get something past them, and I have to really explain to them why we need to do what we need to do. But Tyler, with the consolidation, we still have some money put aside, you know, for some rainy day things that may come up, but they're not $27.9 million. So if we have a pipe that breaks, we have an air conditioning thing that fails, in the meantime, we'll be able to cover that and then hopefully get reimbursed by the school facility board. So he's given me the money he's allowing me to use for consolidation is where he feels safe that we can do that and still, you know, be in good standing for the next, you know, couple of years. But I just want to reiterate that, again, that the money we're spending on consolidation is for enrollment. We're not going to get far with $2.5 million. Okay, we might be able to fix a couple of things, but if kids don't come in the door, It really doesn't matter, because we have to reduce staff, we have to make cuts, we can't pay our teachers, and then when that all starts happening, then it's really easy to go to your neighboring district, right? They actually have that class. They have teachers. They have this, they have that, and it's fierce competition, and I've always said I love the competition because it makes us better, it makes us work hard, and so that's just coaching me. So I know very well what our neighbors are doing because I've spent time there. And to compete with them, we have to get this consolidation right. A K-5 is going to really make some huge changes to our district. Now students will be with us for 6 years instead of for 4. Those 2 extra years will help us make sure they come to our middle school. And the middle schools are traditional 6, 8 now. New honors and gifted program that's there will hopefully keep kids from, I want to go to BASIS, I want to go to these other schools. Remember that those schools don't take every student that walks in the door. We do. And we work hard to educate all of them and make them successful. So.
Thank you. And Kane, I appreciate all the work that you've done putting this together, and I appreciate you, Krista, Alicia, Tyler, and Jeremy, that you have really worked hard to try and look at the spending, that you've tried to get grants, that you're working with School Facilities Board. That's a Robism. Rob really utilized School Facilities Board. He's probably the first superintendent that I saw really put a lot of effort into that. Not that our other ones weren't great, but that was a Rob thing. So it is nice that you're actually putting yourself out there and looking for other resources. But unfortunately, like you said, those aren't going to fix everything that we need done, so.
And I just want to mention that we'll be coming soon with playground equipment. It is quite expensive. I just want to put that. I'm working on it.
Way to lay the land.
I'm working on it.
Are there any other questions regarding the bond? Okay.
Can we get a copy of what you presented
Yeah,
and all
I'll
of that?
Krista send that. I just know it's in draft form. Like I said, I'm prioritizing the things that I know we need to get us that 20 years. So that we can say, the roofs are good, the plumbing's good, HVAC's good, paint's good, carpet's good. Technology, there's not, I don't think I have one thing on technology in there. Because 20 years from now, it's all obsolete. So we'll find, and we got to move a little bit away from some technology too. I've been very clear about that we can't have kids in front of screens all day. So we'll tackle technology in our regular budget.
One last comment. I appreciate you being diligent in cutting the spending and being, getting us out of the bad contracts, because I think that was another place where community members did see that we were maybe not spending responsibly, and they wanted that in check. And so I really appreciate you being diligent with that as well.
Thank you.
My last thing is, again, I really, really love to see something like Scottsdale has regarding on our website, to provide that extra layer of transparency. It talks about the overrides, where it's going, the actual in the budget in very clear, precise terms. So
We will work with our
keep
consultants and
going
we'll
there.
finalize something that we feel proud of, that answers those questions. And like I said, we have open door policy. Come talk to us, and if there's more information needed, we'll put that feedback to work.
Thank you. And again, just to be clear, this was just an information discussion. There will be no voting, so none of this is finalized. There's no moving forward. It'll just be another discussion item at a later meeting. So board members, if you can gather more questions and just be prepared for another discussion on some of the areas that Dr. J would like to move forward on.
Can we also submit things to have them and request them to be in the packet?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if there's something you'd like to see on a future agenda, please contact Dr. J or Krista. Dates of upcoming meetings: we'll have a regular business meeting on April 12th and another work study session on April 26th. And with that,
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Do we have a meeting Wednesday?
I know. Don't we have a meeting?
Wednesday?
Not
2 days?
this week. We have a meeting the 11th. And the 12th.